GMs for Hire.
Welcome back to another episode of GMs for Hire. I am Jamil. With me is RJ. You know we're talking about college football, and today we're talking about After Dark, the Pac-12, the teams that play when no one is watching. But me and RJ were always watching, good and bad, happy or sad, late or early. We're normally watching, so we're going to break down this conference. I think it's going to be a top-heavy conference with only a couple of teams featured at the top that are really going to have a chance to make any noise. And this is a conference that there's no easy way to put it. They desperately need a playoff team. Desperately need a playoff team. I don't think we're going to get it this year. Maybe not, but they need it really bad. How do you feel about the Pac-12?
They need anything. This conference gets no respect at all. Not that much is, deserved, but this is fifth if we're looking at the Power Five conferences. This conference is at the bottom. You mentioned they haven't had a playoff team in a few years, and nobody really respects this conference. So this conference, they got to figure something out, and it's got to start this year.
Yep, and it's going to start at the top with probably the favorite to win the conference, and probably one of the only teams that has a chance to make the playoffs this season. They have a couple of big games in their schedule. It's the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks are pretty solid. They have a very good rushing attack with CJ Verdell and Travis Dye. I think it's underrated because a lot of people don't know about them. We know they're great on defense with Thibodeau, one of the best players in the nation, but the quarterback is Anthony Brown. It's no respect to Anthony Brown. He's a senior guy. He's transferred from Boston College. Was there last year. Didn't play too much. Will play a lot this year. Will start. Can he be the guy to lead this team to score some points and to keep the Oregon Ducks afloat? It's not going to be the Oregon Ducks offense we saw back in the day with Chip Kelly, who we'll talk about later. But it's a team that's going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to be conservative. But they got to find ways to get into the end zone. So how do you see the Ducks shaping up this year?
It definitely all falls on the quarterback position at Oregon this year. This team is loaded. Mario Cristobal, if there's one thing he can do, it's recruit. This team is recruiting out of their mind. I mean, they got the number one player in the country, Kayvon Thibodeau, a couple years ago, he looks like he might end up being the number one pick in the draft this year. This team is loaded. They are recruiting so well. They are absolutely the class of the Pac-12. What this team needs is they need the guy at quarterback, because somebody has got to take the reins of this team, and they've got to demand respect nationally from everybody else. This team has a huge game week 2 when they play Ohio State. That game right there, Oregon, Ohio State, not only does that hold all of Oregon's, playoff hopes, that holds respect for the entire conference. Like, Oregon has to go out there. They have to put on a good show. They really need to win the game. If Oregon goes and gets blown out by Ohio State week 2, then there's nothing different about this conference. It's the same old Pac-12, same old punchline. No one watches Pac-12 After Dark. It's the same old. But Oregon is in a very unique spot this year where they have a huge game against the best team in another power conference to get some respect, not just for them, but for the entire Pac-12.
Yeah, it's actually a huge game, and I agree with everything you said about that. I think the Pac-12 as a whole needs that game. You want to talk about when they make the playoffs, no better chance than to defeat a team that's made it multiple times, and you got to go out there and you got to take it to them. You got to take that win, not only for yourself, but for the conference, and that could propel you into the conversation, make the playoffs at the end of the season. But we got to see if the Ducks can put up the points to win that game. Let's move on to a team that does a good job of preventing getting scored. That's Jimmy Lake and the Washington Huskies. This is a team that always usually plays great defense. This was a team that was really good last year, and if it wasn't for COVID, would have played in the Pac-12 title game instead of the Ducks, and could have beat the USC and went on to a big bowl game themselves, but they didn't. COVID got them, and they got to reset this season. They were pretty good last season. They bring back quarterback Dylan Morris, and they always have a good defense, and they're looking to make a run and to possibly be the best team in the conference next to the Ducks. How do you see the Huskies shaping up this season?
Yeah, it really is a shame. Last year, that had to be the biggest what if. I mean, if COVID would have just left Washington alone, or at least not messed with them as bad as they did. I mean, this is a team that only played 4 games last year. They did go 3-1, though, so we do know Washington can play. Jimmy Lake has got the guys going. They were 3-1 last year. We think this team can be good again this year. They're going to have to play more games, though. What do we really know about Washington? They looked good in very limited action last year, but again, kind of similar to Oregon with their big game week 2. Look at Washington. Week 2, they've got Michigan on the schedule. This conference is set up so beautifully to where week 2, they can make a huge statement with Oregon versus Ohio State and with Washington taking on Michigan. This is a great time to take on Michigan, by the way. This team, Washington, you mentioned the COVID problems they had last year. How did they back it up this year? How do they improve on what they did last year? And can they also shine a positive light for the conference when they take on Michigan in a huge out-of-conference game?
Mm-hmm. I'm really a big fan of Jimmy Lake. I like what he does in the defensive end over there. I think he's a really, really good coach. And unlike Oregon, this Washington team should be favored to win their week 2 game against the Big Ten opponent. And that'd be big for the Pac-12 if they can get the 2 wins over the Big Ten. That would really create some noise out west and get some people focused on them. Moving right along the conference with the California Golden Bears. After back-to-back winning seasons, that stopped last year. They had a tough season. They bring back quarterback Chase Garbers, but this team struggled to score last season, not putting up that many points. They were, I say, last in points in the conference, so pretty near the bottom. So how do you see the Bears going out this season? You think they get back to some winning ways?
I don't know. And to me, that's kind of the big question at Cal right now. Is Justin Wilcox the guy at Cal? Like, is Cal moving in the right direction right now? Because they've been getting a lot of preseason hype, like, oh, this is a team everybody watch out for. Everybody, this is a sneaky team right here. This team can do this. And they just don't really do it. Like, are we sure that Cal is heading in the right direction, or do we need to go ahead and fire that hot seat up for Justin Wilcox? Again, this is a team that they've been mediocre the last few years. They have not really lived up to some of the expectations that I've heard these media outlets have for them. So my big question for them now is, what is Cal? Like, what are we going to see from them? I'd love to give you an answer. I think everyone wants to know. Is Justin Wilcox the guy, or do we need to put him on the hot seat? Because Cal, they're supposed to be better than what they are right now.
Yeah, I'll see what they can do for returning quarterbacks. See if they can get back to those winning ways that they had a couple seasons ago. Moving right along in the Pac-12, we'll talk about Stanford, a team that's normally up there, really, really good team. We don't know what they're going to be this season. We know they're going to be able to run the football. They're returning Austin Jones, who had a pretty good season last year, almost 600 rushing yards, to be able to be the number 1 guy. But we don't know who's going to play quarterback out there. Stanford's going to be Jack West. It's going to be Tanner McGee. Is it going to be someone else? We do not know what's going to happen at quarterback. And we're used to seeing some good quarterbacks at Stanford. So whoever wins this job is going to have some pressure on them to put some points on the board for the Stanford.
Yeah, no, I agree. You got quite the lineage of Stanford quarterbacks to follow up here. I really want to see this team get back to where they needed to be. I love David Shaw. I still think David Shaw is one of the better coaches in the entire country, not just the conferent.
Yeah, I think David Shaw in a big school, he'd be big time. Oh,
if David Shaw was somewhere, that put more of an emphasis on football and not academics, where?
Michigan.
Oh, could you imagine? I would love that. But yeah, I think David Shaw is one of the better coaches in the country, but it seems to me that all that Stanford magic, all that Stanford hype and all that, it's kind of running out of steam now. And Stanford's kind of slowly coming back to what Stanford was pre-Jim Harbaugh, which is a shame. I don't want to see it. Hopefully David Shaw can get out of there and get a big-time deal like a Michigan or something before he continues to, tarnish his legacy. Because here's a guy that I think is one of the best football coaches in the country. I want to see him go somewhere where he can really show it.
Yeah, he's definitely a great coach, and you see him flash some of that when he's on the national TV sets covering different stuff. He knows his stuff. He's a smart guy. Like you said, I think he's still one of the top guys, and I would love to see him coach at a bigger school, but he likes to stay for his teams and he's going to stay there. But moving on down, we'll hit Washington State. We'll go up. So back to Washington. Max Ruge returns. Travel Harris returns. Renard Bell returns. A lot of good pieces to throw the ball to and hand the ball to, but who plays quarterback? Is it going to be Jared Garantano transfer from Tennessee, or will it be someone else? We don't know. The air raid left, but there's still plenty of options to give the ball to. So we'll see what happens over there for Wazoo. How do you see things shaking up for them?
They do return most of their production on offense, but that doesn't always equal success. It's kind of funny. Every offseason, the most, what do you call it? The most conflicting thing you can hear someone say sometimes on television is, oh, look at all the returning starters. Oh, look at all the returning production. If your team wasn't really that good anyway, and you return everybody this year, returning starters really aren't that big of a deal, right? They are returning most of their production on offense. Is Jarrett Garantano going to play quarterback for them? If it is, buckle up, Wazoo. It's going to be a long season.
I think part of his struggles with Tennessee was that he had no one protecting him either. I think they struggled on the O-line. So you get out of the SEC, we'll see if he can do better over there out west. But they have a lot of good guys I like to get the ball to. So if you can get the ball to him, I think this team can put up some numbers and maybe win a couple of games. But we'll see what happens with them moving forward. Oregon State, everything started and ended with one man last year. That was at running back. I'll let you talk about him because I know you loved him. So break us down about what they just lost over there for the Beavers.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. This Oregon State team this year, like, how are you going to replace Jamar Jefferson? If you didn't watch Jamar Jefferson last year, you missed out. And this is why we watch Pac-12 After Dark, because it's midnight. I've probably lost a bunch of money gambling that day. And so I'm watching the Pac-12 game, trying to win some money back. And this running back for Oregon State is just lighting my television up. And I'm like, man, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm glad I bet the Beavers. And this Jamar Jefferson guy was an absolute stud for them last year. He also helped them beat Oregon. This guy, he was Oregon State football last year. And it's gems like that you find when you stay up past 11 watching college football. When you watch Pac-12 After Dark, you find gems like that. I remember watching Kalen Ballage in his 7-touchdown game at Arizona State. You don't see that if you don't stay up for Pac-12 After Dark. Jamar Jefferson last year was a perfect example. He was the epitome of Pac-12 After Dark. And I don't even remember who drafted him or where he's at now, but good luck to him because he is why we watch Pac-12 After Dark. It's guys like him.
Yeah, he definitely was lighting it up for the Oregon State team. He was going crazy. They're going to have a hard time replacing him because basically he was the whole offense. So I don't know where you go for the Beavers, but you got to find some of that production elsewhere. We'll see where they can find it. Continuing down this conference, to go to the other side, Arizona State. It's a team that made a lot of offseason headlines for all the wrong reasons. It seems like sanctions will be coming at some point for them, but for now, they're going to play football. Herm Edwards is going to coach them again, and they have a stud at quarterback in Jalen Daniels, who I want to see if he can make the next step. We talked about before about quarterbacks before the season starts. We have the top guys. You have your Spencer Rattlers. You have your Sam Howells. Who are some of those guys that can sneak up that you're not really talking about right now? Who could be really good quarterbacks? Jalen Daniels could be one of those guys, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Jaden Daniels absolutely has the talent to where Arizona State can win the Pac-12. But I just want to see it materialize. A couple years ago, Arizona State pulled off that huge upset over Oregon, basically cost Oregon a shot at the playoff, cost the Pac-12 a shot at the playoff, and the Jaden Daniels hype started. And I just want to see that hype materialize. I want to see him continue to elevate his game. I want to see him continue to work on that. And I want to see him take Arizona State to places that maybe we're not talking about them going right now. I want to see Arizona State competing for a conference championship because of Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I don't think they have all the opportunity. They have all the talent to get to the Pac-12 title game this season. They had a really good offense. They had a good defense last year too, but they got a lot of young guys. to give the ball to on the outside and at running back. So we'll see if some of those guys can step up to help Jalen Daniels. But this is a Sun Devils team that could strike here this year before the sanctions strike on them. Continuing down this conference, the team everybody wants to talk about, Trojans, USC. Is this finally the last year for Clay Helton? Does he finally get it done? We don't know. We know that Slovis returns as the quarterback. A lot of eyes will be on him. Last year, everybody thought he was going to be a top 5 quarterback in the country. He had his ups and downs. So what are you expecting out of the Trojans this year?
So it's kind of funny. All right. We live in Tampa, Florida. Okay. And from July, well, probably before that, from like June through September, you don't really need to go to school to be a weatherman. You just get on TV and say it's going to be hot and it's probably going to rain. And that is literally the same forecast every single day, June, July, August, and most of September here. I feel like it is the same exact thing when talking about USC football and their preseason hype. Their coach is on the hot seat, okay? They have a good quarterback. Let's see what he can do. And, oh, look, they're starting the season ranked 15 in the preseason poll. It is the same story every single year for USC. I don't know why anybody thinks this year would be any different. Do you know what the textbook definition of the word insanity is? It is for the same exact thing to happen over and over and over, but you expect a different result. You have not gotten rid of Clay Helton. You have made Keaton Slovis. Come on. This guy is average. He's a good quarterback. I know everyone loves him because he's got the little Trojan on his helmet and all that, but this team is the same team that it's been. And the story surrounding USC is the same story it's been. Their quarterback could be good, maybe. I don't know. Is he the next one in line? Probably not. He's probably not the next Matt Leinart or Mark Sanchez. He's probably, I don't know, more like who's the guy? Matt Barkley, which, saw how that preseason hype worked out. As long as Clay Helton is the head coach at USC, and I've heard that he is just an absolute nice guy. He's a great guy to be around, this and that. So that's the hard part about sports. I don't want to be disrespectful. This is a real man with a family and this and that. But like, as long as Clay Helton is the head coach at USC, I'm not going to take this program seriously. It's not going to happen. When you go and throw a bunch of stupid money at Urban Meyer, which didn't happen, and until you go and throw big money at some big coach to come, to your program, I'm not going to take USC seriously. So here's USC for me. They're going to start about 15th? The AP poll just came out. They're about 15th-ish, which way too high. Slovis is going to get a ton of hype. I think he's, I think he has better Heisman odds than Sam Howell, which what do you want me to say? And Clay Helton is just a mediocre coach. So we know what USC is. Could it be different this year? No.
What's the movie? Is it the Truman Show where he does the same thing over and over again?
I think it's Groundhog Day.
Oh, Groundhog Day. I'm tripping. I don't know what I was thinking about. But yeah, that's what happens with USC football, like how you said, insanity and all that stuff. But it's crazy because this team has a lot of talent. They got Drake London at receiver. They get Jake Smith the transfer. They get Anthony Ingram the transfer. They have talent on the defensive line. But we'll see if they can put it together. This is a team that struggles to put it all together, like we mentioned. And sadly, it probably won't happen this year, and they'll probably go their separate ways, looking to get a new coach in. Continuing down the conference, let's hit the Utah Utes. This is a team that's always really, really good. They always have a pretty stout defense with a pretty average to above average offense. And this year they get a new leader in that quarterback. They get Charlie Brewer, their transfer from Baylor, who he had the Bears winning some football games. He played good quarterback over there for Baylor, and he comes in the Utah. So how do you see the Utes hanging out this season?
I think that's a huge move for Utah. That is, to me, that's one of the biggest moves that no one's talking about. Like you said, this Utah team is just always solid. I feel like Utah, as long as Kyle Whittingham is there, will never be bad. This is a good team every year. You don't sneak up on them. You don't let them sneak up on you or you're going to get beat. They're going to be good every year. And now you have an established quarterback that was winning games with Baylor just a couple years ago. I think Charlie Brewer's going to come in. I think he's going to make a world of difference for that Utah offense. And I think the Pac-12 South, when you look at Utah and Arizona State, look, I think it's going to be a great battle between these two teams.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. Utah, they got to have to replace a couple of guys on the outside. They lose a couple of good receivers. They lose a running back tragically, but they're going to have TJ Pledger come in and play running back and transfer from Oklahoma. He was a really high recruit for the Sooners, so we'll see what he can do over there for the Utah Utes at running back. But continuing down the conference, we'll hit UCLA. We talked about Chip Kelly briefly. We talked about Oregon, how they don't have the same high-power offense they had when he was there. UCLA is starting to get humming a little bit with him and DTR. How do you see the Bruins hanging out this season? They have a big first game this season too. So how do you see the Bruins doing this season?
They do. They open up with a huge game against LSU for them. Big time. Chip Kelly, I'm glad he has received patience from everybody. I'm glad that, he didn't take the UCLA job and everyone said, all right, you got 2 years or you're fired. And I'm glad they've let him kind of settle in, recruit, do his thing. Yes, this team is not what we saw Chip Kelly had at Oregon. And it's going to take time to get there. Things like that. I mean, that was a revolution. Things like that takes time. That takes a lot of time. But you mentioned, I do think he's improving at UCLA. I do think UCLA is finding their footing. I don't think Chip Kelly should be on the hot seat. So that's always a plus when you're not on the hot seat. I do like what Chip Kelly's doing at UCLA. It's just taking a lot longer to do it.
Yeah, that's taking. I think a lot of people thought it'd be happening sooner, but they had a couple of tough losses last year. They lost a lot of games that were really, really close. So they have a tough schedule this season, but we'll see if they can bounce back. DTR finally had a really good season last year, so we'll see if he can continue to add to that and find his way to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country this season. And to finish out the conference, talk about the Colorado, the Buffs. The Buffaloes were pretty good last season. They had a decent season. They bring back a lot of talent, but we don't know who's going to play quarterback for them. So once they figure that out, we'll see what can happen for this team. So how do you see them doing this season?
They have 8 returning starters on offense and 8 returning starters on defense. There's not a lot of teams in the country that can say they have that kind of production coming back. You mentioned the quarterback position, still the unknown. It is for most teams in the country, I feel like. So Colorado absolutely has their work cut out for them trying to figure that out. This is a team that just a couple years ago was in the Pac-12 championship, which is kind of hard to believe now, but they got their work cut out for them. They have one of the most beautiful settings in all of college football. That should help them in recruiting, I would think. But it's a long season for the Buffaloes.
You talked about Vanderbilt in the SEC video, talking about you're right next to downtown. You're right on Broadway. Colorado. You go show them, man. Look at this beautiful scenery we have here in Boulder.
Yeah,
Denver's right around the corner. You want to go see some snow, man? Driving up the Breck, it's a couple hours. There's a lot to sell if you're Colorado over there, man. I wouldn't mind playing football over there either. But I like the way you're talking, RJ. We need to get some of these coaches up so we can be in the marketing program. I really hype up the schools. I think we could do that, man.
Oh, I could hype up Vanderbilt. Trust me.
Vanderbilt, Colorado. If you guys hear this, contact us. We'll work some marketing out for you guys. But to finish out the conference, we've gone through all the teams. So RJ, how do you see this conference shaking out? I know you don't see USC going to the title game. So who do you think gets there?
So I'm going to go Oregon. I do ultimately think that they will get it done over Washington. And I think they are going to take on Arizona State in the conference championship. I think Arizona State is going to beat Oregon in the championship and cost the Pac-12 a playoff spot.
That would be something else. I kind of like what you're thinking there. I'm going to go with Washington beating Oregon. And then on the other side, I think it's going to be between Utah and Arizona State. But I got the Sun Devils beating them out because things are going for the Sun Devils. So they better win right now. And I got Washington, Arizona State. I'm going to go with all the Huskies. I think Jim Lake's going to get the job done in a close game. I think his defense will be a little bit too much. I think the Huskies are going to take the Pac-12 this season. And if these things go the way we're talking about, that could be the last hurrah for Jalen Daniels. I think if these things happen, he'll have a great season. He'll be a draft pick in the NFL. USC will definitely fire like hell in the way we're talking. And they'll be on the move for a new coach.
Yeah, which Honestly, they need to. And I just want to point out, yes, we did not mention Arizona.
Oh shoot, I forgot about
There's
Arizona.
not much to mention
Let's
there,
talk.
man. That's a tough one. That is a tough look for new head coach Jed Fish. He's going to come in and he's going to do his best. And that's all I have to say about Arizona.
Well, for them,
it is a
we
mess.
We got to see who plays quarterback for them first to see what they do over there in Tucson. I think they're in Tucson, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then Arizona State's in Tempe, I think. But
Correct.
Yeah, I think they got to figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. And once you figure out there, you can start that rebuilding project there for Arizona. I didn't mean any disrespect to Arizona right there. That was completely my fault. Oh,
I did.
Well, with that, any last words for the conference?
It's tough.
That's all I get to say for them. It's tough.
Yeah, it's
all
tough.
right.
Good luck.
Well,
Good
RJ
luck.
said it's tough, but we're still going to watch the Pac-12 after dark. And I think there's going to be some players that we can look at the end of the season and say, they were really, really good. And a lot of people didn't really watch them enough because they still have some good players in this conference, just that not a lot of people watch them. But for that, I was Jamil. That was RJ. Thank you guys for watching.